It's review time. This video is going to walk through each problem step by step. So if you have any questions, come back to this video. Otherwise, feel free to skip this video. You may also jump around to any problem that you may have a question with. You don't need to watch the entire thing. So let's go ahead and get started. Question number 1. Simplify the following expression. -7/2 divided by 15/4. Use your calculator. Go to that Desmos calculator, your handheld calculator. -7/2 divided by 15/4. So clear all. Okay, -7/2 divided by, make sure you arrow out of that fraction, divided by 15/4. Gives us -9.933 repeating. Remember to write our answer as a fraction to click this button over here. And I have it, and it converts to -14/15. So -14/15. All right. Simplify the following expression. Now I've got more than just one operation going on. I've got subtraction and I have multiplication. So which do I do first? Remember order of operations. Grouping symbols. Oh, there's none of those. Exponents, moving on, there's none of those. Multiplication and division. Well, there is multiplication, so I need to make sure I do that next. So I am going to multiply 2.1 and 1.6. 2.1 times 1.6 gives me, oops, not 16, 1.6, 3.36. So 17.53 minus 3.36, and I'm going to type that into my calculator as well. So 17.53 minus 3.36 gives me a grand total of 14.17. And that would be my simplified answer. So let's check another one. Okay, well, this is the same thing, but with fractions. I'm going to follow my order of operations. Grouping symbols, I do have parentheses, but there's not more than one thing going on in there. So I'm going to skip grouping symbols. There are no exponents, so skip exponents, and then move on to multiplication and division. I do have multiplication, so I'm going to multiply -2/7 times -3 1/4. -2/7 times -3 1/4. I get an answer of 13/14. So my answer simplifies to 1/2 plus 13/14. And then I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. 1/2 plus 13/14. 1/2 plus 13/14 is, big long thing, 10/7. Because it doesn't say write my answer as a mixed number, I'm going to leave it as is. Simplify this expression. Now I do have more going on here, so I have grouping symbols. No exponents, so I can skip that, but multiplication and division, I've got that going on, so I need to keep that in mind, and addition and subtraction I do have going on. So remember to start with grouping symbols, and I'm going to work inside out. So I have one huge grouping symbol, but I do have this little parentheses inside, and I'm going to do that first. So 15 plus 33 is a grand total of 48. I'm going to keep that big grouping symbol going on there. I'm going to keep working inside that grouping symbol. What am I going to do next? Well, no exponents. I'm going to work on multiplication and division next. So I do have no multiplication, but I do have division. So I'm going to divide 48 divided by 8. You can use your calculator, but I remember that that is 6. And I'm going to bring everything else down. Notice that I combined those two, brought that down, bringing down -2. Going to continue to work inside those brackets. 6 minus 2 is 4. Continue to bring down those brackets. 5 times 4 is a grand total of, and that's because that's the only operation I'm going to do it, 20. Great. Moving on. Question number 5. Simplifying the following expression. Okay, so here we go. I am going to work on grouping symbols first. I do have those, so here we go. 6.5 minus 2.5 is a grand total of 4. Divided by 2 squared. While I'm done with grouping symbols, I'm going to move on to exponents. Do I have any of those? Yes, I do. Right here, I'm going to simplify that. 2 squared is 4. 5 times 4 divided by 4. Now what am I going to do next? Well, my next order of business is multiplication and division. I keep saying this, but multiplication is not necessarily more important than division. I need to move left to right in my problem, so I'm going to move this way. And since multiplication comes first and division comes second, I'm going to do the multiplication first. So 5 times 4 is 20. Divided by 4, I'm going to bring that down. Now I'm going to do that division. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And that's my final answer for that. Number 6. Okay. I've got grouping symbols, exponents, multiplying, dividing, and addition and subtraction. Grouping symbols first. I have that. So I go to my grouping symbols and I say, hey, 30 minus 4 squared. Whoops, I can't do that subtraction until I know what my exponent is. So 30 minus 4 squared. Well, what is 4 squared? 4 times 4 is 16. I'm going to bring that down. 30 minus 16. 1/2 times minus 10. Continuing to work inside my grouping symbols. I can do that subtraction now. What is 30 minus 16? It is 14. Bringing down my parentheses, bringing down my 1/2 times, bringing down my minus 10. Okay, no more grouping symbols, no more exponents. I'm going to work with multiplication and division. I do have multiplication going on right here, so I'm going to do that. 1/2 times 14 is 7. I'm going to bring down my minus 10. Great. And now I'm going to continue to simplify. What is 7 minus 10? Type that in your calculator. It is -3. And that's my final answer for that one. Number 7. Simplify the following expression. Remember, fraction bars act like grouping symbols. I'm going to work on the top, and then I'm going to work on the bottom. So here's my big fraction bar. Simplifying the top. Well, in the top, there are grouping symbols, so I'm going to do that first. 6 plus 2 is 8. So 8 squared. And I'm bringing down the bottom. Okay, any more grouping symbols in the top? Remember, we're continuing to work on the top. Nope, there are exponents though. So I'm going to work on that exponent. Bringing down a new fraction. 8 squared is 64. That goes back on top. The bottom remains the same until I'm ready to work with it. Okay, next on the top, I have simplified, so I'm going to work on the bottom. I don't have any grouping symbols. I don't have any exponents, but I do have multiplication and I do have addition. I do have subtraction. So which of those do I do first? Remember to go down this list. So multiplication comes first. 4 times 9 is 36. Okay, new fraction bar. 64 stays on top. 4 times 9 simplifies to 36. I'm going to bring that along. Bring along the minus 4. And continue. To simplify, I can now do that subtraction. 64 divided by 32 equals, now remember, once you get to this point right here, you have to simplify to see if that fraction simplifies to a whole number. 64 divided by 32. What do you know? It is a whole number. It is 2. I'm going to write that down. That's my final answer. Okay, number 8. Simplify this problem. Again, it's another fraction problem working on the top and the bottom. working on the top first 9 and work with those parentheses times 4. I don't lie. If you like this strategy, I also like to just leave the bottom blank, keep writing fractions for the top, and then go back and fill those in. So 9 times 4 is 36, and that's simplified. So I'm done making new fractions for now. I'm going to go deal with the bottom, and I'm going to start simplifying here. So what do I do first in this? There's no grouping symbols, but there are exponents. Here we are. So 4 to the second power is 16. So 6 plus 16 minus 10. Now simplify that denominator. There are no multiplying and dividing. There is addition and subtraction. I'm going to move left to right, but I'm actually going to let my calculator do the work for me. 6 plus 16 minus 10. 6 plus 16 minus 10, 12. Remember, don't leave your answer like this. Type it into your calculator. Does that give you a whole number? And yes, it does. My final answer is 3. Number 9, evaluate for the given variable. X plus 6 when x is equal to negative 2. Remember, when I evaluate, it means I'm going to be plugging in this value. I'm going to be replacing it. Remember, another nickname for x is negative 2. So when I come here to the sentence, I'm going to rename that. X is now negative 2. 6 is still 6. It doesn't have a new nickname. And I stop and I simplify. What is negative 2 plus 6? That is 4. And I'm done. Number 10, continuing to evaluate. So replacing. I've got the expression negative 4p plus 1 when p equals 2. Let's replace negative 4. I'm going to, when I replace p, I'm going to make sure I put parentheses because this means negative 4 times p. So negative 4 times 2 plus 1. And I'm going to simplify. Remember to do multiplication before addition. So negative 8 plus 1, which simplifies to negative 7. Number 10, evaluate the expression. B equals negative 5 and y equals 3. So let's replace. B's new name is negative 5. Negative 5 times, when two numbers and variables are next to each other, it means multiplication. So multiplied by 3. And I'm just going to, anytime I replace a variable, I'm going to put those parentheses. Multiplication first. 5 times 3 is 15. So negative 5 minus 15, which gives me a grand total of negative 20. Next problem. Evaluate with this expression. 10 plus 7, parentheses. I'm going to replace the x, put in the 5, minus 4. What am I going to do? Order of operations. Any grouping symbols going on here? There sure is. I'm going to work inside the grouping symbols. And then no exponents, but I do have multiplying. So I'm going to multiply 35 minus 4. Bring everything down. 35 minus 4, 30 is 31. And now I can simplify. 10 plus 31 is 41. Number 13. Use the equation below to find y. M is 11, x is 2, and b is 5. So I'm going to try and find y and by filling in the rest of these guys. So y is equal to m, replacing m with an 11, replacing x with a 2, plus replacing b with a 5. Let's look at this problem. I have multiplication going on and addition, doing the multiplication first. 22 plus 5, that's 27. So y is equal to 27. All right. Replacing again. When x is equal to negative 5. If I look at this problem, there's multiple x's. So I'm going to replace it multiple times. When I fill in the x, remember to put parentheses around that. So every time I see an x, I put parentheses, and I replace it with my new nickname for x up here. Remember when you type this into your calculator? To put those parentheses, -5 squared is 25. If I don't include those parentheses, remember what happens? -5 squared, I get -25 instead of positive, which I need to be careful about. So positive 25 plus -30, because that's what I get when I multiply, and -9. And I'm just going to type this all into my calculator at one time and let my calculator do the work. 25 plus -30 plus -9. So 25 plus -30 minus 9 is -14. Great. Moving on. 15. Evaluate the expression when x is equal to 14 and z equals 6. Here we go. 14. Now notice I'm replacing, here's the x, replacing it with a 14. I'm going to draw that fraction bar in just so you can see where I'm at. Plus z, parentheses for exponents, 6 goes inside that, parentheses, squared. Go into the denominator, x, 14 minus 2. When there's multiplication going on, I include the parentheses as well. So 6. Notice every time there's an x, I replaced it with 14. Every time there's a z, I replaced it with 6. Now let's simplify. This is a fraction problem, so I'm going to simplify the top part first. There are no grouping symbols, but I do have exponents. So 6 times 6 is 36, so on the top I have 14 plus 36. Making a new fraction because I need to keep simplifying the top. 14 plus 36 is a grand total of 50. And on the denominator, I have 14 minus 2 times 6. What comes first? Multiplication, division, or addition and subtraction? Multiplication and division. So multiply 2 times 6 first. I get 14 minus 12. Keep on simplifying. 14 minus 12 is 2. Simplify this final fraction. Don't leave it as a fraction. Gives me 25. All right. Now that we're done with evaluating, let's talk about simplifying with distribution and combining like terms. If I look at this problem, I see parentheses, and remember, parentheses always come first. I'm going to distribute. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 9 is 36, a positive 36, so I'm going to make sure I get a plus sign. Now, as I look at this and I snip these two terms apart, are there any like terms? Well, this has an x and this does not, so nope. So I'm going to leave it as my answer. Whoops. 4x plus 36. And I'm going to type that in as my final answer. Simplify this expression by distributing and combining like terms. Well, in this problem, I see no parentheses, so I don't need to do the distributing, but I am going to combine like terms if I can. So I snip my terms apart by that plus sign. 8y and 2y, are they like terms? Yep. Both have y's, so they are the same variable, and they are like terms. So I'm going to combine the numbers. 8 plus 2 is 10, and they both have a y, so I'm going to bring a y down. My answer is just 10y. Simplify the following expression, distributing and combining like terms. Okay, so distributing always comes first, and I can tell there's distribution because of the parentheses. 3 times 2 is 6x. 3 times -8 is -24. As I look at my two terms, as I snip them apart, one has an x and one does not, so that is as simplified as I can make it. That's my final answer. Simplify the following terms by distributing and combining like terms. Well, I see no I usually do parentheses first, but there's no parentheses, so I'm going to jump straight to combining like terms. I'm going to snip these apart, separate them by the plus as a minus. So 9p split minus 5 to 0.2, make a split, plus 4p, make a split. Are there any like terms with p's? Well, not -5.2, that doesn't have a p. 4 does, so I'm going to combine those two. Any other p's? Nope. So just those two. 9 plus 4 gives me a grand total of 13, and those were p's, so 13p. Negative 5.2 doesn't have a variable, and neither does 2.3, so I'm going to combine those two. I'm going to use my calculator on this one. Decimals and negatives do not get along, so negative 5, for me at least. Negative 5.2 plus, oops, I gotta look back what it was, 2.3. So negative 2.9, and I'm going to leave it as a decimal, negative 2.9. And this is my final answer. Simplify the expression by distributing and combining like terms. Remember, we always do parentheses first, and I do have those. So I'm going to work on that. Here's my parentheses, what's in front of it, all the way to the symbol. I'm going to distribute a negative 3. Distributing negative 3 gives me negative 27x. Negative 3 and negative 4 give me a positive 12. That's the end of my parentheses, so stop distributing. I'm going to bring down this term right here, the plus 7. I'm going to look at my terms. I'm going to separate them by the pluses and minuses, and I'm going to combine. Anything that combines with negative 27x, well, 12 doesn't have an x, and neither does 7, so I'm just going to bring it down. And I'm going to look at 12. It has a like term with 7 because they don't have variables. 12 and 7 combine to give me a grand total of 19. And since it's positive, I'm going to make sure I put a plus sign there. And that's my final answer. All right, simplify the following by distribution and combining like terms. Well, remember distribution first. So multiplying 1/2 times m. Well, that's just a 1 there, so 1/2 m. And 1/2 times 3/4. Yep, I'm going to use my calculator. 1/2 times 3/4 gives me a grand total of 0.375. I'm going to convert it back to a fraction, 3/8. Now you might say, why are you converting it back to a fraction? Well, this is in a fraction form. I'm going to keep my forms the same. If my form was already in decimal form, I could leave it as a decimal. And since it's a positive, I'm going to make sure that it says positive, and that's my final answer. All right, 2 more. Question 22. This looks like a toughie, but we're going to break it into little bits. So I'm going to remember that I can't combine anything inside parentheses with anything outside. That's in, that's out. I can't combine them. I need to get rid of my parentheses first, so everything is outside. So here we go. I find my parentheses. There they are. I go all the way to the number that's in front. And I'm going to multiply that negative 3. Now, if you saw that 5 and said, ooh, I'm just going to minus the 5 and the 3. Remember that 5 is not attached to the parentheses, only that negative 3 is. So distributing a negative 3, I get negative 12x, and negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. Now that I have this big chunk taken care of, I'm going to bring everything else down. So I'm bringing down the 5 in front of the minus sign. I'm going to bring down this minus 2 plus 3x. Now that my parentheses are gone, we're going to separate out our terms. 5, snip, negative 12x. And you get the idea. And I'm going to see if I have any like terms. So I have 5x, not 5x, just 5. The next one has an x, so it's not a like term. Negative 9 doesn't have any variable, so it's a like term. And negative 2 doesn't have a variable, so it's also a like term. All 3 of them, make sure we combine them. 5 plus a negative 9 plus a negative 2. And I'm just going to type that in my calculator. 5 plus negative 9 plus negative 2 gives me negative 6. And those didn't have a variable, so I'm going to leave that separate. Hey, negative 12x is a like term to 3x. So I'm going to combine those. Negative 12 plus 3 Those are x's. Negative 12 plus 3 is negative 9. So negative 9. X. I'm going to make sure I bring it down with my 6. We're going to combine them. And that's my final answer. All right, last one. Lots of parentheses going on. So I remember I'm going to take care of those first by multiplying what's in front. There's one set of parentheses. I've got a 4.1 in front. So 4.1 times 3, here we go with calculator. 4.1 times 3 is 12.3. Okay. 4.1 times negative 2. 4.1 times negative 2 is negative 8.2. Okay, well that takes care of the first set of parentheses. We'll have another set. What's in front of it? I'm going to go all the way to the symbol, positive 2. So I'm going to distribute a positive 2. 2 times 3 is a positive 6n. 2 times negative 3 is a negative 6. I'm going to stop my distributing because I'm done with parentheses. And I see this last little thing doesn't have parentheses, so I'm going to bring it straight down. Plus 8n. Last but not least, I'm going to separate out my terms. Anything that is a like term with 12.3k. Well, there's no other k's, so nope. So I'm going to bring it straight down. Anything that's a like term with negative 8.2. Well, there's a negative 6. So negative 8.2 plus a negative 6 is negative 14.2. So when I combine these, I get negative 14.2. And last but not least, 6n and 8n are like terms. That 6 plus 8 gives me 14. And don't forget to bring the variable with it. Those had an n, so 14n. Now, if you did this problem, but you had a different order, no worries. As long as 12.3 is positive, 14.2 is negative, and 14 is positive. All right, that's it for the review. If you have any other questions or any clarifications that you would like to be made before you take the test, please reach out to me. And good luck.